behind the scenes tale of the screwed up production that was Alien 3 is legendary. The theatrical cut of Alien 3 was... but I don't think it's as bad as people think, and I think the director's cut is actually not bad. So what happened with this movie? The first director that they hired was a director named Renny Harlin. Renny Harlin was coming off of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which got good reviews and it made money. So Renny Harlin was kind of like the talk of the town at the time. Now, as Harlin explains it, what he really did not want to do was repeat what Ridley Scott did in the first film and what James Cameron did in the second. He wanted it to have its own identity. I give Harlin credit for that. Now, Harlin's original idea was he wanted the film to take place on the alien's home planet. Eventually, the producer said no. They thought the film would be too expensive. Because really, who wants to go back to that ship where you found that huge space jockey dude who had his chest burst open? Nobody would be interested in that story. Hello, Prometheus! So his second idea was that he wanted the movie to take place on Earth, where the aliens are going around killing everybody. Ultimately, the studio rejects this idea too, but not before they end up shooting a teaser for it, which completely misrepresents what Alien 3 ultimately became.
On Earth, everyone can hear you scream.
So if you see that teaser, you assume, wow, okay, so the aliens are actually coming to Earth. Now, during all of this madness, a writer named David Fincher submitted a draft that involved a prisoner transport. His version did not include the Ripley character at all. His film focused on a prisoner. An alien somehow gets on the prisoner barge and all hell breaks loose. Renny Harlin was not excited by this idea. He couldn't get the film to Earth quick enough. It wasn't Earth dominated. He kept getting fought left and right, and there was this goddamn prisoner transport thing that just kept popping up. So Renny Harlin is really frustrated. Look, they shot a teaser basically hinting at the direction they're gonna go. Then they kind of pull back from that and say, nah, we're not comfortable with that. We want the prisoner ship. Ultimately, Renny Harlin leaves. Don't feel too bad for Renny, because he goes on to make Die Hard 2, which is a huge mega hit. He marries Gina Davis. He makes some bad movies, but he's a millionaire, so don't worry, he's okay. Don't worry about David Fincher either. Even though his draft was never made, he eventually made a film called Pitch Black with Vin Diesel, and he's a prisoner on a transport, and he has to fight aliens. Very cool movie, by the way, Pitch Black. Eventually, 20th Century Fox studio head Joe Roth puts his foot down and says, we won't make this movie without Sigourney Weaver. So they go to Sigourney Weaver, and Sigourney Weaver says, I won't make this movie unless the concept is original and you remove the gun fetish plaguing all of the different drafts. Eventually, one of the producers, Walter Hill, sees a movie called The Navigator, directed by a man named Vincent Ward. And after he sees that movie, he says, I found my director. Now, Vincent Ward comes up with this great, totally original approach. He envisions a sort of wooden Death Star. So on the outside, you see this superstructure straight out of science fiction. But when you go inside, you're like living in medieval times. It's a bunch of monks that live on this ship. They are looking to get away from technology. There are no weapons and there are no women. At the center of this planet was a glass factory. So they could make all of their, stained glass windows, and they also use the glass to reflect the starlight. And this ship has its own atmosphere. So they farm animals, they have windmills, they grow wheat. So some really interesting ideas going on here. Now, in Ward's film, the way the religious monks viewed the alien was very interesting. They saw the alien as some sort of demon, something spawned from the devil or some crap. So they blamed Ripley for bringing this demon here. Because she's got a vagina. At one point, they think that if they lock her up in a dungeon, the demon will be appeased and leave them alone. But, of course, the alien continues killing them left and right, and eventually they have to let Ripley out to kick unholy ass. So the producers love this idea. Sigourney loves it, and they finally greenlight the film. And this is where everything turns to shit. The first thing the studio does is they announce a release date. The release date got everybody nervous. And when everybody got nervous, everybody started to question the commercial viability of Vincent Ward's vision. Eventually, the studio brings Vincent Ward in and they say, look, the whole wooden ship angle, basically his take that got the movie greenlit in the first place, was being taken out of the script. So he quits the film and the entire production is now in disarray. Meanwhile, David Fincher was this super successful music video and commercial director. Fox brings him in to try to salvage this mess. He doesn't even have a script. No one envied David Fincher's position. He had to fight pretty much tooth and nail to shoot anything. Pages are being written on set, rewritten on set. There was all sorts of arguing over the ending of the film. They cut down Fincher's cut pretty drastically. They wanted to make sure that the film had a shorter running time and they could pump as many screenings a day as they could. And I know David Fincher kind of disowned the film, but I think given the circumstances, considering everything that Fincher had to deal with, the constant hawking and undermining by the studio, I don't think the movie's that bad. Really, Alien 3 is sort of your typical artistic tragedy in Hollywood. Audiences were really robbed from the beginning of this truly interesting vision and what would have been a worthy contribution to the horror and science fiction genre. It's a perfect case of having way too many fingers in the pie. Robin just flew by.